struggling to market to your ideal clientele with old branding that worked for you years ago? This branding gap is playing a huge role in your current client conversion rate, and you may not even know it. We've heard it all before. My website doesn't matter that much, or I'll get to it eventually, but years go by and yet you're still asking the same question. Why am I still working the same weddings at the same price point with no growth? So what does your current brand and website say about you? Does your copy actually captivate your ideal clientele, or are they quickly closing your site and connecting with someone else? It's time to give your brand some pampering at the Creative Cabana, your all-inclusive strategy and design studio. With over a decade of experience as wedding vendors, their full-service team knows exactly how powerful great branding can be for your business growth. Whether you need a complete brand refresh or just a touch-up with services like website design, brand identity, or copywriting, they've got you covered. And for filmmakers out there, they also specialize in logo animations so that your film can feel that much more elevated. This is something I just invested in, and it's brought an entirely new look to my films. So you poured your heart and soul into your business. Now it's time for a brand that connects with your customers on every level. Visit their website today and use our discount code WGY300 for $300 off your first project at creativecabana.co. Welcome to the We Got You podcast, a network curated for wedding photographers and filmmakers that dives deep into the strategies and tactics to transitioning a side hustle in the wedding industry into a full-time, thriving career. We're your hosts, luxury wedding filmmaker Emma K. Films and luxury destination wedding photographer Hannah Brook Photography. It wasn't too long ago that we picked up our cameras for the first time, having absolutely no idea where it would lead us. Years later, we're traveling the globe for beautiful destination weddings, built our dream lifestyles, and run multi-six-figure careers. It didn't happen overnight and it wasn't easy, but it is attainable and so worth it. And we're ready to teach you our strategies. Covering a variety of topics from both our firsthand experiences and reputable guest speakers' insights crucial for business growth, we're exploring the art of marketing within your niche, discussing effective ways to attract and retain clients, leverage social media, and build a strong online presence, and so much more. We're not shying away from talking through the challenges of the wedding industry and offering realistic solutions to navigate them successfully. We emphasize the importance of networking, establishing meaningful relationships with clients, and continuously honing one's craft to stand out in a competitive market. This is the We Got You podcast.
Hello, happy Monday, happy September, We Got You podcast. Hannah and I here, and this week we are going to be talking with you about what your Instagram might be missing. As you know, you're in busy season right now. You've probably got a lot of things going on, as we talked last week about things that you can do to help you survive busy season. But engagement season for next year is slowly approaching as fall gets here, as Thanksgiving, as Christmas comes, as the New Year comes, Valentine's Day. It's engagement season, right? There's going to be a lot of couples getting engaged and planning their weddings next year. So it is extremely important while you are in a busy season that you are also prepping for engagement season. And I know that statement sounds so overwhelming to so many of you, but we want to focus on your Instagram today because your Instagram is just a pivotal piece of your brand that is connecting your potential clients to you, that's potentially getting you inquiries, that is getting clients to your website. We want to make sure your Instagram's up to date. So we're just going to kind of walk through a list of things of what your Instagram could be missing and what we deem as invaluable to the success of your social media marketing strategy.
Yeah, and honestly, to kind of kick it off, we're just going to dive right in and really make sure that we get you guys all this information. But to really kick it off, we're going to talk about your brand name. So this is like what your Instagram tag is, your business name, that really speaks volumes about your brand, who you are, what your work is, how you serve everything. I feel like this is sometimes can be a touchy subject because a lot of people have their business name figured out day one and you never change it. And so then I feel like sometimes if you are finding out it's not necessarily aligned with who I am wanting to work with or weddings that I'm wanting to work or the style that I'm going towards, it can be really hard to recognize that and be ready to change it. So we just really wanted to emphasize that having a business name that really aligns with your target market, the work that you're wanting to do, and your niche is really, really important because that is the first thing that people are going to see. That is how they're going to know you as. And so really thinking about, we've we see so many different examples of people using just their name as their business name, of using their name photo or photography or films or video, or .co. And then there's also the other option where you can have a name that is not related to your actual name. And it could be just like I don't know a good example, but having a name that isn't your first and last name or first and middle name, but having a name that is more aligned to what your business is. I think it is very hard to say that one is better than the other, whether it's your name or your name and your niche or a completely different few words. But I do think that especially like moving into high end, moving into luxury, if that is where you're wanting to go, then I think making sure that it aligns with who you're wanting to serve, having it be your name, having it be professional, having it really show case like what you're here for, like if you're a photographer, if you're weddings, whatever that looks like is important so that your clients right off the bat are knowing who you are seeing that about your brand and then diving in.
I so agree. And we actually we have a good example. We had a conversation with a fellow photographer who is trying to get into the luxury market and was asking the question of hey, do we feel like my business name aligns? Is my business name helping me get into the luxury market? And this is a really good thing to think about because honestly, when you think about it, maybe per se, a different example, if you are someone, for example, who wants to be in the luxury market and maybe your whole brand is trees and mountains and elopements, I myself have been there. I used to only do, not only, but I used to really do elopements in Oregon, did a lot of outdoorsy stuff. I wasn't really interested in weddings. So that when I wanted to get into the luxury market, I had a brand that didn't align. My name, I had always kept my name, but the emblems, the symbols of trees and mountains, it wasn't translating over to me doing editorial beachside Miami LA weddings, right? And so when we were talking to this individual, we were honestly, there isn't something that says what your name is completely wrong. But if it's not aligning to the luxury market, what we see those people doing, it can hurt you in a way if it's not aligned to the clientele that you want to serve. And so obviously this is a deep one for Instagram because this is your whole brand that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it is really important that your brand aligns to your ideal client that you're looking to market to, because your Instagram, your work, your bio, your profile photo, your brand name, all of that, it all needs to tie in together. And so just be thinking about your brand name. Do you feel if you're someone who maybe has been doing elopements or you have a brand name that sounds, maybe it's feeling a little cheesy, maybe it's just feeling a little bit production housey, maybe it's not feeling personal and unique, and that's the brand that you want to portray is a brand that's personal and unique, really thinking okay, should I go through a rebrand or revamp something to really make sure it all aligns?
Yeah, and I think it's hard for some people to stomach that the name that they've had since the very beginning, they might need to rebrand or change, or the vision is different. But again, that's all what growth is. And I think this is a really beautiful opportunity to look at people that you admire in the industry that are where you want to be and use them as great examples of, okay, what are they, because they are in the industry that you want to be in, whether that's elopement space, destination, luxury, high end, whatever that looks like. Use those inspirations as examples and see, okay, are they doing similar things? Because they're almost like that blueprint of getting into that industry. Again, we always preface it with not copying. But I do think it is really important to look at other people in the industry and kind of reflect, is what I am doing similar in a way as in I can get into that industry, or am I doing something completely different that might fall short or that might not help me in the long run?
Yeah, I completely agree. And that leads into the next point is your bio. This is literally the first thing that people are looking at when they click on your Instagram. It's that very, very first glance. Anytime I click on someone's Instagram, I read their bio really quick and then I actually look at their work, right? So your bio is so important that it's not cheesy. And I feel this is something that a lot of people's Instagrams are missing, is that professionalism. And here's the thing, you can be fun, you can be personable. You don't have to have it be just a completely dry bio if that's not what your brand is. But there is a way where you can still make it feel professional, especially if you're charging a high dollar amount. Like, I don't want to see a billion emojis in your bio. I don't want to know that your favorite artist is Frank Sinatra. I don't want to know that you're a coffee lover. Like, honestly, like, I don't care. And I know that just sounds so harsh, but especially if I am paying someone top dollar, if I am investing money in my wedding, like, honestly, that's great that you like Frank Sinatra. Am I booking you because you love Frank Sinatra? No, I'm booking you because I feel like your work feels like art. I feel like it's showcasing this extravagant luxury that I want in my own wedding. And so that's what you need to portray in your bio. Those elements where it feels personable, it feels unique to you, but yet it's still professional. And so, like, I really encourage you, like, you can list out publications you've been featured in, which we're going to talk about in a moment. That's a great place to do it. You can also list out, maybe where you're traveling or where you're based and that you travel worldwide. That's really great. Also, including your tagline is really helpful, where people can just read that little personable statement about you. Maybe if there's any educational platforms that you host, but keep it simple, keep it to the point. If people want to learn more about you, let them click on your website, but leave your bio to feel professional, to feel personable, to be to the point and informational, while using keywords that are searchable, right? People can search for keywords and that can really like rank into your bio. And so, like, making sure that you're putting in your tagline that's got some powerful keywords, or where you're based and where you want to work. But your bio is just such an important piece to your social media marketing strategy. And like, I think some of the biggest turnoffs is like clicking on a bio and I see a billion emojis, or I see all these cheesy things that it doesn't feel like I'm getting a high-end experience, regardless of whether you're in the luxury market or not. I don't care if you're shooting destination elopements or you're shooting adventure stuff and you don't want to be in the luxury market, that's fine. But I still, in my mind as a bride and groom, like, I'm still spending top dollar to hire you. So I want to see something that feels professional and feels high end as an experience.
Yeah, I seriously could not agree more. Like, when I look at people that I'm really inspired by who are like in the luxury industry, like, there's almost like this quiet confidence in their bio where they're not needing to like be your best friend and everything, but like, it's okay, this is what I can do. This is how I can serve you, and like, this is what I bring to the table. And like, that's sometimes all you need. And there's a way to do that without, like Emma said, being cheesy. And I know we had touched on, having publications. That's a really good spot for publications. And that's actually something we wanted to really like dive into as well, is really showing off publications and where your work has been featured, because that is such a big building block when it comes to your credibility in potential clients' eyes, even other vendor eyes, and like creatives, planners, brides and grooms. If you have been published, or if you've been featured somewhere, having that in your bio, having a highlight maybe that is publications and it is sharing your work that has been published or been shared by, whether it's a magazine or a planner or whatnot, like sharing that into your highlight. And then also your published work, having that pinned onto your profile and pinned onto your feed is really huge, because again, you want that to be something that is building credibility. And if your potential clients aren't seeing that, it's not going to build your credibility. So making sure that, and that's, I just love Instagram keeps surprising me, but like the fact that, now you can pin things and everything is a really, really important piece of, marketing strategy of picking, okay, what is important to be pinned? What should I have pinned? What is the first thing that when I look at those first 9 feed posts, regardless of the new stuff I'm posting, this is still one of those top 3 that I want highlighted. And if maybe you're like, okay, I don't have any publications or I haven't been featured anywhere, now is the time to really dive into what can I do to get that? What can I do to build that? Who can I work with? What do I need to do? How can I, either create this, or what can I be part of that can be potentially submitted as a publication?
Yeah. And there are countless publication companies out there, countless publications. Like, I literally could go on and on and on about how many there are that you can be a part of, right? Whether it be the Wed or the Wed Vibes or the Loverly or Over the Moon or the Lane or Vogue. And I mean, I'm just listing high-end ones. Rocky Mountain Bride, Adventure. I don't know. Yeah. There's so many There's so many different publications, whether you want the adventure space or you want the luxury market. And so invest into some of them so that you can start sharing your weddings with them, sharing your style shoots, getting published with these companies, because your couple doesn't even necessarily like need to know all the details about the wed, but they see the wed on your feed and they're like, oh wow, they were published. Like, okay. It builds this subconscious sense of credibility when you've been published. And so make this a priority to showcase, because I definitely know, especially when I have people that go to my Instagram, like when they see, oh, she's been featured in ESPN and People. And obviously those publications are a little bit harder because you have to be shooting people that already have an in for those places. But even the wed and even the wed vibes, when people see that, they're establishing the credibility that is just invaluable. So like, I can't say enough. There's so many out there. Put that in your, put that as a priority for sure.
Yeah, well, it's like, how cool is that? And like, people want to be part of something that is like incredible. So it just gets them that one step closer to, okay, this is somebody who I could potentially want to work with.
Are you tired of taking on the entire editing workload yourself? Are you tired of staring at a screen for days on end, feeling burnt out and creatively exhausted? Maybe you've been searching for an editing company for months now, but you can't seem to find one that can truly mimic the high-end quality of films you're looking for to deliver to your clients. If this sounds like you, we couldn't be more excited to introduce to you our friends at Wonderlust Videos. Wonderlust Videos is a post-production service for wedding filmmakers with over 10 years of experience and has served over 700 clients to date. Their full team specializes in seamless and high-quality editing for wedding filmmakers who need to take the workload off their shoulders and trust someone to create a high-end edit. As you know, we're incredibly picky about the partners we work with and the tools and resources we recommend to other photographers and filmmakers. With that being said, I myself, Emma, have gone through the process firsthand to use Wonderlust Videos myself and vet their entire process so that I can recommend them to you today with confidence. Wonderlust Videos can edit your highlight films, social media teasers, doc edits, and so much more. Their team edits on Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro, DaVinci Resolve, so it's time to get the help you need and start outsourcing today. You can start with Wonderlust Videos right now at wonderlust-videos.com and use our code WGY10 for 10% off your first project.
Does your current client delivery system feel unexciting, limiting, and boring? Maybe you're still using good old Google Drive or Dropbox to deliver your clients' wedding films. If the answer to these is yes, it's time to level up your video delivery experience with VidFlow. VidFlow is a pay-per-use online platform that allows you to deliver fully branded websites for each of your clients. While being incredibly affordable, VidFlow is accessible on mobile, desktop, and smart TVs with included long-term hosting so that your clients can truly enjoy the entire experience when receiving their wedding films. When I first found VidFlow, it was such an easy switch that truly benefited my business substantially. With so many incredible features and options for customization and personalization, VidFlow continues to wow my clients time and time again. You can find VidFlow on Instagram or visit their website at vidflow.co. Use our code WGY20 for 20% off a yearly premium membership and level up your client experience today with VidFlow.
We also want to touch on having a visually aesthetic feed. And this is something that Hannah and I go over so extensively in our coaching programs with all of our attendees. Mm-hmm. But we want to touch on it here because so many of us don't think about the aesthetic. And hate to break it to you, but today's society cares all about the aesthetic. They really do. They care about the color palette that's in your feed. They care about what it looks like. I am always gravitating towards Instagram feeds that I feel like look visually aesthetic. And it really is that like that subconscious sense of trust, that subconscious sense of like, oh wow, like this feed feels a certain type of way. It feels like their brand. It's giving high end. It's giving professional. A few tips we would say would be like, don't just show off the people. Right? This is like big thing number one. Unless you are shooting celebrities, then obviously it's really beneficial to show off the people. But if you're not shooting celebrities or people of like high social status every single wedding, then you don't need every single cover photo to be of people. Showcase design, showcase locations, make it look like full in a way that doesn't feel where your grid doesn't feel distracting. It feels like as a planner or a potential client or another wedding vendor, when I click on your feed, like my eyes are drawn somewhere. They're drawn to this beautiful couple portrait, or they're drawn to this insane drone shot of a venue that you just worked at, or they're drawn to this beautifully designed tablescape. As a planner, I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, how did they film this? How did they photograph this? I want to see what it looks like. But really being able to showcase the experience, showcase some shots of your guests, of them having a great time. Don't make it feel so cluttered with the same couple portraits on every single cover photo. That is something that it just feels so distracting. It feels full in a way that isn't drawing my eyes anywhere, and is something that can be so heavily missed about having a visually aesthetic feed. So there's so many things that we could go on and on and on about having a visually aesthetic feed, but I think that is one of the biggest takeaways, is really curating it to like with your brand's color palette. Obviously, my brand is browns and whites and blacks. My whole Instagram feed can't be just brown and white and black. That's impossible, because what I'm filming is very true to color. But I am leaning on the same type of tones that feel really dramatic. They feel cinematic, a little bit on the moody side, but pretty natural. Like I want it to overall have the colors feel cohesive. I'm not throwing in like random pops of yellow, and then this cover photo is like super overexposed, and then like this cover photo is like super, super dark. Like you want it all to flow and match cohesively, and that's so important to have a visually aesthetic grid.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like when we all start a business, like there is a sense of quantity over quality.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because you're trying to get work out there. You're trying to show people that you're here. You're trying to get your face in front of them. Like you're trying to build that clientele and build that trust and build that portfolio on Instagram. And I think as we get more experience and as we grow and as we are in this business, it becomes a quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And there is a shift that happens. And I think a lot of people say, well, the quantity worked for me. So like, why change it? It's because when you are changing industries, you do have to change what you're doing. And so being like, I remember years ago where it was like, it doesn't matter like how it looks in your feed, like post how you're feeling. And for a while that really helped me because it was something that stressed me out a lot. But now it's like, you can't do that. You do have to be intentional. There is a sense of curation that clients pick up on and that clients notice and that they're drawn to. And so if you're able to draw them in aesthetically, then imagine what you're able to do with their wedding day. Like that is that like gateway to getting them into your inbox. So it's more important, I think, than a lot of people recognize, and not to put stress or pressure on, because there is ways to like not make it something that's pressure on you or stress, like using those apps where you can plan out what your grid feed is going to look like, picking out your favorite photos from every wedding day and putting them into that app, and then kind of like organizing them around. You don't have to post every single day, which I think takes so much stress off. But yeah, just being really intentional with it.
Yeah, I honestly, couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And the last thing that we really wanted to touch on was Instagram stories. So stories is such an incredible spot on Instagram, because while your feed, we're not posting 24/7, we're not posting every single day. Like that's really our portfolio pieces. Our story is something where we're able to share pieces of our work, pieces of our business, pieces of ourselves, and have that be something that people are able to click on and view, but it's not that permanent piece on our portfolio page. So really recognizing that that's another spot that your clients are going to get a piece of your brand and see who you are, see what your business is, and get a sense of your branding, design, colors, style, vision, everything. So it is something that is going to tie into your Instagram as well, and something that you should be very conscious of as well. I think sometimes people can use Instagram stories as a diary, or just kind of throwing up everything that they're like, oh, well, I want to be authentic. So like throwing everything on there. There's still a way to be authentic while being professional and while being yourself and while building a connection with couples. It doesn't mean putting everything onto there. Same thing with your Instagram bio. Sometimes you don't need that your favorite artist is Frank Sinatra and that this morning you were, doing something crazy that made no sense to your business and you just put it on your story because you had to put something on your story. Like there's still an intentionality when it comes to what you're documenting and what you're sharing. I think that one of the big things too is a font, picking what fonts you feel like really align with your brand. There's, I always use, I think it's the last one or the third to last one. It's like the script font. I absolutely love using that font because I feel like that really aligns with my branding fonts. I don't use the big block letters because that is the exact opposite. So being conscious of, okay, what fonts am I using? And then also being conscious of, okay, what is the coloring and style in what I'm sharing? If I'm sharing BTS or if I'm sharing a video of the day or something, I'm sometimes putting those into Lightroom and editing those similar to my edits so that I'm putting them up there. And I'm not trying to share things that feel like they're very off brand. While this is a place to build those connections and be real and be, yourself, you're still on brand in every piece of your business because this isn't your personal Instagram. This is still work.
Yeah. And I think I just can't echo that enough with what you said, even to the teeniest little details of the font and where you're placing words on your story. Like every little detail aligns to your brand. Why would you use a block font when you have no block font in your actual Instagram and your website? And so we had someone not too long ago ask in our Facebook group, they were like, hey, what do I post on my stories when I don't have a lot of work to share at the moment? And I honestly was like, for me, I will share different weddings that inspire me. I'll scroll on my homepage, look for weddings. I see something that's just really inspirational to me. I'll share it to my story. I think that is so helpful for me because not only am I showing weddings that I like, but it also shows my potential clients and my potential planners that might be in my inbox. Oh, hey, she loves that. I love that. Maybe we could have a client together. But I think sharing work that you feel really inspired by, also resharing old reels or videos or photos to your stories and tagging the entire vendor team to kind of re-spark it and maybe say a little something to your stories. You don't constantly have to come up with a bunch of new content if you feel like you don't have it for your stories. It's always really good, pull inspiration from other weddings or reshare some old work to your stories and tag the vendor team. That will kind of get that conversation re-sparked. But be intentional because these elements are just so important to your brand identity. Your social media marketing is in today's day and age, it has to be good. You have to have a solid social media presence in today's age, right? Especially if you're newer or you're trying to establish yourself inside a new market. Sure, maybe if you've been in the luxury market for the past 10 years and you're off the grid and you don't need social media, there are certainly those people out there. I envy you. I wish that I could be you and didn't have to run my social media. But for most of us, we need social media to help us get bookings, to help us jump markets, to help us show ourselves to other vendors. And so it is just so vital that you have a solid social media marketing strategy in place. But
and honestly, details are huge. I think just a little side note, one of my pet peeves, I feel when it comes to Instagram stories is when people reshare a story and there's this random lime green color behind it or a random bright pink or random orange or random bright blue, or if they reshare a post and there's an ombre coloring that has no correlation to the post or to your branding. And it's so easy to change that. But even I know when Emma reshares a story, she always has the black background is black. I'm always the background is white. And those are very in line with our branding, So even those little pieces is huge. I'll see a planner reshare something as bright blue and I'm oh no, it just doesn't make sense. No. So I know. I was even just thinking about those little things, being very intentional with what you have on your story and it's something very easy to do. It's not something that you have to stress crazy about. But I just wanted to add that little plug-in because I think a lot of us kind of forget that those are things that we're able to manipulate and control. And if you're able to, then why not have it be on brand?
Yeah. Honestly, and these are things that you can genuinely implement today. Obviously, the first one we talked about, which having an aligned brand name, that's something a lot deeper that you have to think about. But for most of these, you can make these changes and do these things starting today. So we really encourage you, do it now, put in the work. Engagement season is coming. You don't want to be one of those that feels like you're late to the game or you should have started marketing earlier. You want to be caught up on it as it comes. But we're super excited to just be able to chat with you more about it. If you've got any questions, you can always put it in our Facebook group. We're happy to answer, happy to be there for you. And we'll see you next week on the We Got You podcast.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the We Got You podcast. We would absolutely love it if you could take an extra minute to leave us a review and let us know what you think. DM us a screenshot of it and we'll send you a coffee on us. If you want access to an exclusive community, rad freebies, giveaways, and wedding referrals, then join our Facebook group today. Also, if you aren't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure that you're following along on Instagram at WeGotYou_podcast to stay up to date. We'll see you next week on the We Got You podcast.